Tony Sanfilippo wrote a great piece for Tape Op called Thinking Like Tape. And I think that sort of at the crux of that was the idea of simplifying when recording. We started with live to, one track.
One track, if.
And we've gone, Beatles did amazing things with 4 tracks and with 8, 16, 24, 48 tracks. That's a lot of tracks.
That's a couple.
It's plenty. But now, we receive mixes or sessions to mix that have over 100 tracks sometimes.
So there's always a point where something actually does work that's ridiculous, right?
Right.
Like, I think the most I had was about 175, and it was 2 songs running across each other at one point. So you kind of had this crossover time that was very extended, so there had to be all sculpted, and it's a lot to manage. And that's the problem, because I think the main thing we've talked about in other episodes here is that recording with intent and focus is like one of the most important things. So like if there's 100 and some odd tracks, but the intent and focus was really strong, it might be fine.
Sure,
it might be great. So you might have like stacks of tracks, but there's not much happening at the same time at any given part of the performance, whatever. On the other hand, there's several problems I see, like with people recording kind of like isolated on their own, or just adding to something they did in a studio and then sending me the stuff to mix, and sometimes that's kind of what we all call the kitchen sink, because they're throwing everything in.
Sure.
And I think that problem is that people just they just don't, they need to learn how to record things like really simple at the start. Like just keep things very simple and straight, and then only add that we absolutely need.
Sure.
And that's number one.
It's like so many things. I mean, this is not unique to music.
Yeah.
This is, we talk about cooking all the time.
We do.
You have an entire, we have a spice rack. John and I love to cook. You love to cook. And so many people that are in music are actually really enjoy cooking. And
or they work in restaurants like I did. Yeah.
But I think that there's something so important about that concept of like, just because you have all these spices doesn't mean you use them all.
Yeah.
And it's about focus and intent.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and another thing, if you're saying, is this a good sounding recording? Like, do you want a hi-fi kind of clear, awesome recording? Then the less things in every little frame of your song, the less elements, the more that you hear the quality of that recording.
I always think about AC/DC, and I think about a record that, like, it's the band.
Yeah.
There aren't that many overdubs, if any, that when he does the guitar solo, there's just one rhythm guitar. Like Angus is, there's a lot of space in those records, and it sounds massive.
If you want that effect, you have to record with that intent.
Yep.
And you can't add that. You can't create that later if you went the other way.
Sure.
That's the thing. And another thing too is that a lot of times some things with like a lot of overdubs, if mixed properly, those things are barely in there, but they just had like this tiny little shimmer of a high note in that part, or they're way in the background and deep in a reverb, or recorded across the room, and they just had a feeling, and there's cool shit, with maybe way too many tracks, but you've also found a place for every little thing that does a thing. And I get some things like that to mix, like Jason Lytle records and stuff, where there's a lot of tracks, but it's all just beautifully orchestrated.
Right.
So there's no way to say come up with a rule, right?
Sure.
But there is something to be said for like just keeping focus, keeping like intent, and keeping your eye on like what part of the song really matters.